Hey friends, I hope the morning's treating you well. Hope you got your coffee if you drink coffee. I just heard about Don Schlitz passing away. Don Schlitz was a great, great songwriter. If you don't know his name, you probably know his songs. He wrote The Gambler, and that's a huge. You could. It's safe to say a song is huge when it's on the Muppet Show. That's a transcendent song that's much bigger than your average hit. And he also wrote On the Other Hand, Forever and Ever, Amen, big Randy Travis hits. I believe that he co-wrote those with Paul Overstreet. But I actually knew Don a little bit, and that's kind of what I'd like to talk about. Is man, he was a really, really good guy, and very. He's got all of these awards, Songs of the Year, and Songwriters Hall of Fame, and all of that. But I met Don, and I think it was on social media. He reached out to me and said, "You seem kind of interesting, Otis. I'd like to meet you," which is a really weird thing. I kind of like Don Schlitz. Isn't that the guy that wrote The Gambler? And he ended up coming over to the house, and just really, really down to earth, nice guy. And I ended up recording an interview with him for my podcast. Thanks for giving a damn, where he told some stories, and but I can't say just how down to earth he was. It was really nice, and he said he came to Nashville on a Greyhound bus with $80 to his name and a guitar, and he stayed at some flop house on over by the Parthenon when he first got here for $3 a night. And if that isn't, the classic story, I've heard so many stories of people that come into Nashville on the Greyhound bus, and most of those did not end well, but it ended up really well for him. But one of the things that stuck out to me is he went out of his way to talk about writers like David Olney, and say Don was saying that he had all of this good fortune to have had songs cut by people. It wasn't going well for a while, but his friends were like David Olney, and he just thought David was like a genius writer. And he said there's no difference. How did he say it? He's saying that he thought David was, every bit as good a writer, if not better. He just didn't have the good fortune of having like the big cut or whatever. He said it much better than I did, and it was a very humble, refreshing thing to hear. But he told me about how he wrote The Gambler, I believe it was during a walk around Music Row, and had most of it in his head by the time he got home and was trying to remember to write it down. But man, he was from Durham, North Carolina, and he became friends with Randy Travis after the hits and all that. And he went to Duke University for a short time, and I can't remember if he dropped out or what, but he was a Duke guy. And Randy Travis was from somewhere in North Carolina, and he was a North Carolina guy. And if you're a basketball fan, a college basketball fan, you know that those are arch rivals. And he told me, I hope I get all of this right. We were talking about the great game between North Carolina and Duke, where Grant Hill throws it's an overtime with 2 seconds left, 2.1 seconds left. Grant Hill throws a three-quarter court inbounds pass that Christian Leitner catches, turns, and shoots, and the buzzer goes off, and Duke beat North Carolina in overtime, and to go to the Final Four. It was a number 1 seed against a number 2 seed, and bitter rivals, two great colleges. And You're asking, why are we talking about sports, Otis? But it's thought of as one of the greatest college basketball games of all time. He was watching that game while driving through Kentucky on Randy Travis's tour bus. So they're watching that game together, a Duke fan and a North Carolina fan and friends. And I was thinking, man, talk about a long way to go in life when you're going to, be watching one of the great games with these two important teams, with the star that cut one of your biggest songs. And he just laughed about it and was really down to earth and good. The last time, so I saw him like a little bit. I didn't really see him out that much, but I'd see him and he was just always really nice and, wanting to talk. What have you been up to, Otis? What's going on in your world and all of that. And the last time I saw him, he called me up and said, hey, I'm going to be in East Nashville. You want to go have lunch or something? And I'm like, yeah, man, let's go have lunch. And he said, maybe Amy can go too. And I'm like, yeah, I'd love for that. So we went over to Mitchell's Deli, which is a great place if you come to town and you're looking for lunch. It's been around for a long time and it's really, really good. But we went over there and we just sat for a couple hours, shooting the crap. And he's like, nah, I want to take you guys out. He picked up the check and it was just really nice, super down to earth. I'm saying all of this because people will know about the songs, which are amazing. I mean, there's a lot more hits that he wrote than the ones I'm saying. These are the ones at the top of there was a big Keith Whitley song. Oh God, what was it called? You guys will fill it in down below, I'm sure. But you'll read, the songwriter died, the guy that had a lot of hits or whatever. But man, he was just really super cool to me and really down to earth. And I remember and maybe I'll link to like the podcast stuff we did down below. I'll try to put those links down there if I remember right. Maybe some of you have heard those before. But when we recorded that, he came over to the house. He stayed for at least 2 hours afterwards, just like hanging out and, asking questions. Just a really curious guy and just seemed interested in, well, what the hell's my life like? What kind of gigs do you do, Otis? What's it like at your gigs? What's, just really questions you don't expect to hear from someone who wrote such big songs, but he was just really nice. I've met a lot of other people since then that were friends with him, and they were just, glowing things to say. I wanted to share this as a little record to let you know the human being behind those songs. Just a really good, humble guy who had very talented, wrote some great songs, co-wrote some great songs, some of them, but had the good fortune, of being the right song at the right time with the right singer, and it resonated and people loved it, It's not an easy thing to do. He did it quite a few times though. And I'll put the link down below, like I said, and maybe you guys will hear his voice. Oh, he also toured he was the opening act on a J.J. Cale tour. And he's been on my mind for like the last 6 or 9 months, Don has. And I'm like, man, we didn't talk that much about that J.J. Cale tour. I'd like to hear way more about it. And I kept meaning to reach out to him and have him on the channel here. And, tell me about that part of your life. What was J.J. Cale like and all that. And I didn't do it. When I would think about it, I'd be in the middle of doing something else. And then by the time I had the free time to do it, I'd forget about it. And that's the way life is. But anyhow, just wanted you guys to know about Don Schlitz. And I hope everything is going well in your world, and I will talk to you guys soon. Much love to you.